James Rees from Old Timer Rogues Let, where you're today with Nicola Barke, better known as the Burmese Python. How are you today, Nicola? All right?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all good. How we been coping with this whole lockdown thing? Obviously, minimal amount of training and no fights to get involved in.
Yeah, so there's no fights, but it has been quite good in the fact that you can always train from home. I've been quite fortunate that I've got a woods, almost like a forest, near my house. So that's been quite helpful in terms of getting used to training outdoors and, just falling back in love with the sport and, just being able to train yourself and work on the things that you always want to improve, but, might not necessarily have time during camp. So it's actually been a really good period. So yeah, almost a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it could well work out that way, really. Couldn't it? A bit more your own time as well. Doing your own thing, sorting yourself out. So how did it all begin with you then? What sort of upbringing did you have? How did you sort of get involved in martial arts? Where did it all sort of start?
Yeah, so as a kid growing up, I actually had something called narcolepsy. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but narcolepsy it's a condition where you just can't fall asleep, like your brain switches off, and you're just out for several hours. And it could be in the middle of an activity. It might be like, I used to be walking down the street or in the middle of a meal and fall asleep. So I'd fall asleep in a bush or fall asleep on my plate. And I had that for all the way up until I went to university, and thankfully grew out of it. But for some other people, they end up having that for life, and for most people, you don't actually grow out of it. So as a kid, I missed out on quite a lot of education growing up just because of the narcolepsy. And then I wasn't too into sport, but the only sport I did do as a kid was ballet, and I did that for about 16 years before I actually started any martial arts at all. And that was very much because my parents, they like seeing their daughter in a tutu. They like seeing their daughter dance. So that's what that's what I was brought up doing. And it was only maybe when I was sort of 16, 17, and we have the Duke of Edinburgh Award in the UK. And you had to come up with a new physical activity. And I thought that was the right time to tell my parents that I didn't really enjoy ballet and I wasn't particularly good at it. And also that I wanted to try something completely different. And at the time, it was very much the child logic of, okay, I'm terrible at ballet, which is non-contact and quite girly. Maybe I'll be good at the opposite. And that's when I first started taekwondo, which is where my martial arts career began. And yeah, it was pretty much after the first few months of training, just completely fell in love with the martial art. I love the foundation first as opposed to the physical. So I love the fact that it taught you like discipline, perseverance, self-respect, indomitable spirit, courtesy. I just loved that foundation. And then that played more of a role in my personal day-to-day life as well as martial arts. And then I started competing, became a second Dan black belt in taekwondo, and then won the world championships in Canada, which was like a real highlight for me. At the time, I didn't see it, but looking back, I could see that was quite a pinnacle moment that I just wished I appreciated more.
Yeah.
I think at the time I was like, oh, I've done it. And I was just so surprised. And I think I was in such a rush to get to the end point that I wasn't able to enjoy the journey as much as I would. So from that point on, I've really made a point to make sure I enjoy absolutely every part of training, and not just focus on that one goal, but actually the whole process encompassed by it too. And then since then, I was invited. So after I'd won the Taekwondo world title, I was invited to represent GB Olympic Taekwondo team. And then I got down to the final 15 when they were doing the selections and broke my foot. And then I was written off the team because I was too liable to injury. And I was pretty down about that for about 6 months. I didn't do anything. And then I realized that something was missing again in my life. And I wanted to go back to martial arts, but I didn't want to go back to Taekwondo. And that's when I first moved to Luton and started training at Storm Gym. And that's where I started practicing kickboxing, K1, and had my introduction into Muay Thai as well. So that's where I started my amateur career, and I had a couple of amateur fights, not the typical sort of big numbers. I think I only had about 9 or 10 maybe. And then the first professional fight I ever had was then in China. I think that was about 2 years ago now. And that was just completely different. You know, when you go from fighting on the amateur stage, where it's almost in a sports hall, to then going fighting on a huge show abroad, where there's cameras, lights, you know, there's little flames, there's a television above the ring. It was very surreal, and I remember through that whole experience just reminding myself, you know, enjoy it, because this is your dream, like this is all you've dreamed for. And since then it's sort of just spiraled out. So I've had a couple more professional fights, and most recently at the end of last year, before lockdown, did the first transition into Lethwei, which has been quite exciting, and that was really special, doing the Lethwei fight as my debut, but also back in Myanmar as my roots and sort of the home country of my mother as well. So my mother was born and raised in Myanmar before she came over to the UK, and I just remember as a child always telling her, like, when I'm old enough, I'll take you home, I'll take you home. So to be able to tell her that, yes, I get to take you home, by the way, I'm also fighting Lethwei, you know, that was just incredible. It was nice. Yeah, it was so nice to see in a crowd, and you know, any mother or parent is just naturally very worried for their children in the ring. So I think she was like half over the moon with excitement, and then the other heart, you know, the panic set in with the other part.
Yeah, I can imagine. So obviously you say your mother was Burmese birth, yeah. How do you feel that's partially behind why you've got such a good following from Myanmar at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? The Burmese people have just been absolutely incredible in terms of support. Even, you know, the ultimate Burmese Python and Lung Sang has reached out and, you know, shared his welcomings and showed his support. And it's just been so humbling. The people are just so encouraging, so genuine, and, you know, they just really want you to do well. And it's nice to be that role model for them. You know, it's just, yeah. I just feel very blessed, incredibly blessed.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, my experience from Burmese people that I've sort of dealt with so far have all been the same sort of thing. I mean, if they can see you're willing to try, you're willing to go there and give it your all, they're more than happy to support you and give it their following.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back to the ballet bit, then, how do you feel that may have? Do you feel that's had any sort of input on how your martial arts career has gone? Because obviously it's a very mobile, athletic sort of career to have gone into to start with. Do you feel it's helped you much with the martial arts?
I can't see the direct connection, although I do believe at some point in my life I'll look back and be like, yes, it definitely helped. If anything, I think it just helped me realise what I was not born to do. So I think it was just I wasn't born to do ballet. And you know, it was that was sort of the beacon to be like, okay, you're so terrible at this, choose the opposite and you might be okay. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot of my footwork through my experience within martial art as opposed to from ballet, which might sound surprising, but I just remember even as a ballerina, I was quite flat-footed. So, yeah.
Puts you in the right direction anyway, if nothing else on there.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously, you've won your achievements. You've said about the World Championship. You won the WKO British Championship in a 4-woman tournament.
Yes.
What was that whole experience like?
Oh, that was incredible, you know. So the 4-woman tournament, that was my second and third professional fight. So I felt for me like that I had to make quite a big statement, you know, really train hard to make sure I was physically fit. And then, you know, when you're in a tournament, you don't know who you're going to be matched up against. So you can't come up with a set game plan. You sort of have to judge everyone and then devise a game plan for everyone and make sure you sort of stick to that. So, you know, it was an incredible experience. I'm so glad I did that because it just showed, well, myself and everyone else that I was capable of doing it. And especially when they're in the same night, you have to be very careful of the injuries that you pick up. And even if you have a set game plan from the word go, you know, if you do pick up an injury, it's then trying to adapt that, or you might have won the first fight, but knowing what your opponent had done to know how their performance is to ensure that you can still get the win at the end of the night. And that was brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, the all multi-fight in the night thing is definitely a different format to what a lot of fighters in particular are used to dealing with these days, isn't it?
Yeah. Instead of having that mindset for one fight, you're like, no, we're gonna have 2 fights, and it's a completely different game. But it's good. It's really important to challenge yourself, and I think that's the best way. There were a really good group of girls who I fought, so yeah, I feel very pleased with that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've talked now. You won the British Championship and the World Championship. You're currently sitting with a 90% win rate. Obviously, it's a very good percentage. That is, a lot of people would be happy with that. I want to ask you, how do you deal with losing? Other than the obvious answer, no one particularly likes it. But how do you feel? Is there struggles for you getting over it, or is it something you just deal with on the way?
Sorry, what's that? With losses, is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah, how do you deal with the losses? You've not that you've had many, but
yeah. So you know what? I think when I was in my taekwondo career, I was so focused on the final result. I was so focused on getting gold, getting first place, that I didn't appreciate what was actually important. And having now transitioned and doing sort of the professional element and full contact fighting, for me, what's most important is, one, that I gave my absolute all on the day, and two, that it's just a performance that I can be proud of if I look back. If I look back and I think, you know what, I had more in the tank that day, I could have done this, I could have done that, then that's when I'll feel the regret or disappointment would set in. But even with I've only had one professional loss, and that was ultimately a risk that I had to take. It was an incredible, so this one was at the O2 in London, so it was an incredible venue to fight at, for one, and I had gastroenteritis that morning, and I had that option, like, do I fight or do I not fight? But in my mind, I'd visualized that fight so much that I just believed that I still had a chance, and I felt that if I didn't take that risk, I'd always look back and say, well, what if? When you put so much hard work and hours and blood, sweat and tears, quite literally, it's a risk, and I was willing to take that. I took the risk and it didn't pay off, but when I look back, I wasn't sad, and I did want to win. That's always the ultimate outcome. But when I look back, am I disappointed? No, in fact, I feel the opposite. I still feel proud that I was able to fight through sickness, still give my best, and I just feel that there were so many people who came to support me for that fight as well, that I just didn't want to, they've sacrificed their wages to come see me fight. Like, that's pretty incredible. And, I respect that. So, like, the least that I could do, that's what I wanted to do. So, yeah, my mindset and approach to it now is just totally different. So long as I can leave the ring knowing I gave it my all, I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, I mean, I asked for a rematch on that fight. The girl fights at a lower weight now. So I can't do that weight cut, but some risks pay off someday, and that's okay. Yeah,
you never know what may happen one day. She may gain, you may decide to go down. You never know. You could always happen. Going back to October, where you made your WLC debut against Balati, as you said. Got a very convincing decision win out of that fight. If I remember right, you had suffered an injury in the first round, wasn't it? Didn't you dislocate your shoulder or something?
I did. You know what? I felt so good for that fight. I was convinced nothing was going to go wrong. And then it just so has to be. It was literally like 10 seconds into the first round, I felt my shoulder go. I was like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? But you know what? When, so the first round was, just me trying to figure out, let's just get through it. And then I can figure it out and have a bit of breathing space and head space to decide how I'm going to take it forward. And then, the great thing about Lethway is that it's the art of 9 limbs. So I felt that the fact that I just lost 1 limb wasn't such a big deal, and that I had all the others that I could still use. And that was pretty much tactic. I would have loved to have thrown more punches and used my hands a lot more, because that's something I'd really been working on. But you just have to adapt to the situation. In that situation, it was just best to use my range, use my kicks, and that was how it was just going to be. So just it's about adapting. Otherwise, I could have risked completely not being able to fight at all, keep getting wrapped up in the clinch and not being able to use my arm, or actually sometimes you just have to play it a bit more tactically.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about you as a fighter as well, to be fair, because as I say, it was quite a clear decision victory as well. It wasn't like it was a particularly close one, and the fact you've done that minus the one limb for the whole fight, that opening 10 seconds, I mean, that is, it was obviously quite an impressive performance, really, when you take that into mind.
Yeah.
Recently, I've seen the rankings for the WLC. You're currently sitting at number 2, just behind Manfredi. How much is that fight in your mind? Is that something you're looking for?
I mean, if it can be arranged, then yeah, I'm up to fight anyone. I really don't mind who I fight, and I feel that my record as it stands doesn't correctly reflect. If you look on paper, the girls that I've fought, my first professional fight was against China's number 3 and their Sander world champion. And that was my first professional fight, and I won that unanimously. I believe in myself, and I just feel that anyone and everyone, but that's what all fighters say, and I believe that's true. If you want to be the best, you have to fight the best. There's no way that you can climb to the top without beating the people who are in the top rankings. That's the only way that you're going to get there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it'd be an exciting fight as well. Two really gutsy fighters, really. I mean, it'd definitely be one for the fans that'd be interested in seeing anyway. I'm not sure it'd be so nice to be involved in yourself, but it would definitely be one to watch for sure. WLC and One Championship have obviously got some sort of thing going on with fighters jumping back and forth. Is that something that's come into consideration for yourself, obviously with the kickboxing background? Would that be something that would interest you as well, going over there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for a lot of fighters, WRC and One Championship are just an incredible platform to fight on. For me personally, One Championship really draws my attention for the fact that it's so morally based on having that respect between fighters, and that's something I'm a huge advocate for. I'm all for having a really good match, but shaking hands at the end of it and being able to move on and be a team about it. Even the way that the fighters challenge each other, I just think is a very respectful way, and I feel it's the correct light that fighters should be put in. Because if you look at the history of martial arts, where it all started from, it was all about that respect and that appreciation for each and every person. I think that's a very important part.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it seems to be the one thing that Chartery prides his business on in One Championship is that very traditional martial arts base of respect, honour to the sport. So, I mean, it definitely sounds like the sort of place that you would thrive in, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think it's great that the fighters, when you see them on One Championship, that they're obviously a role model because of their physical capabilities within the ring, but also if you have a step outside the ring, that they still are that same role model to people. And I think that's really important, especially when fighters have a huge following. You want them to have good role models who can inspire them and just ensure that people are their best.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely the right direction to be going, isn't it? So to finish off, then we'll just look into what's your ambitions going forward. Where do you see yourself? Where would you like to be within the next couple of years?
Wow, yeah, so that's quite a big question. I mean, I'd love to be able to fight again in Myanmar against the home crowd. Well, no, with the home crowd even. It's incredible to have their support there. It's just absolutely amazing. And if I am able to just inspire one person from Myanmar or even around the world, to follow their dream and try that a little bit harder, I'll feel very pleased with that. And, progressing through the ranks within WLC and hopefully being able to get a shot to fight on One Championship in the future as well. That's it. But I'm just very open to where life will take me, the opportunities that open up, and just making the most of what's to come and what I have now.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely going to look forward to watching your career going forward anyway. Hopefully that Man Friday fight comes up for yourself, push yourself even higher in the eyes of the company. Hopefully one championship will come off for you as well, and you'll get a call to go over there. I just want to thank you, Nicola, for taking your time and coming on here today. Really appreciate the time you've given us to do this, and wish you all the best going forward.
Oh, super. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Take care.